Hello world. Rainy day. Anyway, just in a video where this gentleman was discussing whether or not Africans are native to the Americas, etc., etc. And it brought on the thought or the reality that, that right now we know in terms of history, right, that the reason that white people are almost everywhere, right, they're almost everywhere, is because they went around colonizing the planet, right? So, like, for example, we know that white people are not indigenous to Australia or the Andaman Islands. You know, you're not going to find them at the Andaman Islands, but that's just describing the geography and the climate, right? So, if 3,000 years in the future, 5,000 years, 10,000 years in the future, right, we know English originated where? In England, right? You know, that little island right off the coast of, West Eurasia, right? So, in the future, in Australia, it was colonized by the British, right? So it's all English out there, right? So you're gonna find English script, right? Very true, right? So if you're gonna find the English script which originated in England, in Australia, or in South Africa, or in, I don't know what's the South America, I don't know, Uruguay, somewhere, right? One of these places where the British went. If you find their script there, does that mean that they originated from there? Does that mean, because you found the script and all this, all these artifacts and monuments, because right now, yeah, like, for example, like right now when you go to Kenya, you'll see, all you will see is freaking Chinese, right? Buildings with Chinese script, because the Chinese are seeing that is how you establish a global civilization, right? You go in, you influence the culture with your language, with your tradition, with your culture, with how you do things and all that good stuff. And in the future, especially if you expand in terms of population, right? And if you go here, there, here, we're gonna go colonize everybody, right? We're gonna go to every little patch of land where people are, and we're gonna take over, and we're gonna make it look like we were here all along, right? So that brings the question, right? This is the video that we were watching. Are Africans native to the Americas? Are they native to the Americas? You can look at how the native people found here, how they were dressed, the traditions they were, involved in, cultural practices, ethnic practices, all that good stuff, tribal practices. And you can look at the language, the linguistics, and the mythology, right? How they tell stories and how they record history, right? That is how you know where a specific civilization, that is how you identify civilization, right? Especially if they don't have script, apparently. If they don't have script, there's other way to look at it. Script is the one that is, it's a fucking spell. Writing is a spell. It's a fucking spell. It's a spell. Writing? I remember reading, what's it called? This dude, Malidoma Some's book. Of Spirit and of Water, something like that, right? And he was describing how writing, or being literate, takes over something in our minds, in our brains, a capacity in our brains that is usually open for something else. It's usually open for something else. It's there for something else, but it's occupied with writing. And that's why today, especially, they say, what? The pen is mightier than the sword. The pen is mightier than the sword, because it occupies some portion of your brain, of your mind, of your psyche, some portion of the subconscious, right? Is tapped into by the ability to read and write. It takes over something that, who knows? I don't know. I'm gonna leave that open to your interpretation. I have a very vivid imagination. That could have been open for so many things. So many things. And being an African, you know, it even just, you know. And when I say I'm African, I mean in terms of the continent that we know as Africa, as well as its extensions in terms of their people who originated there and expanded before anybody else did, or in a manner that makes it look like nobody else did. Right? Because that's the conundrum that, you know, white people will always have. They will always have that. It doesn't matter any civilization that takes over the world will always have that issue of making it look like they've been there, even if, you know, for however long they had been there, even if they're not the ones that started being there. You know, because why? Take a guess. Why is that? Because the original is still there. You will have to get rid of the original first for you to be able to look like the original, to appear as the original, you know, to be the original. So the original is still there, so good luck making it look like it wasn't or like it's not, you know, because that's the other conundrum that we also have as, you know, black people, Africans, right? Moors. That's the conundrum that we have, is that we don't really know who we are. Wait. You don't know who you really are. You dig? You don't know who you are. You define yourselves as you have been told to define yourselves. And that's why now your history is so obscure. You can't find your history, you know what I'm saying? And that's the only other way that someone can tell you who you are or what you are in a way that they can get away with is if the link to your history has been cut off, right? And that starts with language. You cut off someone's link to language, and you know their own language, their subconscious, their language. If you cut someone's language off and how they operate and think, you've taken over how they think already. That's already there, right? Like right now, somebody who's never learned English from my village only thinks in the language of my village. Whereas I can think in the language of my village, the national language, Swahili, and English. But unfortunately, English is predominant, right? For me to think in those other ones, I have to consciously do it, you know? But subconsciously, fucking English, right? So, that being said, one thing people need to understand, especially in terms of civilization and all this good stuff, is that whether you like it or not, it was people who can thrive in the sun without any, you know, special help, right? That pioneered civilization. So if you find any remnants of civilization anywhere in the world, right? The originators of that civilization are the same originators of this civilization. And you might think that it was West Eurasians that are the pioneers of this civilization. And I'm telling you, they are not. The roads, especially here in America, the roads here, yes, dude, I'm telling you, the road system in America, no one can fuck with it. But the one thing people don't think about or don't realize is that these roads are the ancient trade routes. These were roads that existed before, many of them. The main ones, the ones that have been here for so long, right? That you think that, no. All they did was, you know, pave them. And all that good stuff. A lot of the roads that exist across the continents, right, are roads that were there before they existed. They were already seen as, yes, this is viable way to go, this blah 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 blah, all that good stuff. They were already established by the civilization prior to the European civilization, right? Or the West Eurasian civilization. Because Europe is still on fucking Asia. It's Asia, it's West Asia. There's nothing separating Europe and what, China, whatever, but mountains. Just like, yeah, you know, there's nothing separating North Africa and Sub-Sahara Africa from each other than a desert. It's the same continent, right? It's the same continent. So, with that said, yeah, man, just think about that. Just think about how you are defined by people who apparently tried to conquer you, and by you identifying in the method that they provide for you is just proof of that conquest, and you know, it's success to some extent, right? Because I don't identify as black. I don't identify as African other than in the general term of, you know, like, yes, my ancestors, my recent ancestors were right here, right? We're in this place known colloquially, right, as this and that, you know? Don't consider myself human, you know? Nothing about ego, blah, 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 blah. If it's anything about, that means you, anybody who has an issue, you know, in terms of feeling like someone else is egotistical, you need to work on your ego, bro. You need to work on your ego. Because people who have, you know, what a thing on their ego, don't give a fuck about nobody else's. Go ahead, ego, have your fun, play along, do your thing. It's not, what the fuck is your ego gonna do to me, man? Got mine to deal with. I've got my ego, buddy. Yeah. Oh, you wanna express? Cool, express. Right? So, that's the other thing that, you know, as Africans, we have forgotten. Is that the African's ego is the most potent of all. Especially when the mind, that portion of your mind, has not been taken over by writing and reading and writing, right? Where that portion of your mind is free from reading and writing, fucking spelling, you know, grammar, whatever, fuck, you know, all this good stuff. So, life, this shit is funny. This shit is funny. Life is funny as fuck, man. Whoever thought this shit up is, dude, whoever thought this shit up, it was genius, bro. It was pretty smart. It was pretty genius. I'm not gonna lie. This whole thing, it's pretty fucking genius. You know? Has people wondering what's the purpose. Yo, this shit is funny as fuck. Once you like start seeing, man. Once you start really seeing shit, bro. You know, my last video I was talking about, like, yo, how you don't build it? This shit does not come out of nowhere, man. You know? Then when you see the pyramids, yeah, this shit doesn't come out of nowhere. It doesn't come out of nowhere. 2,000 years. In 2005, no, man, this shit happens over hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, man. Billions. Bro, or it just doesn't happen. It's some other type of shit, bro. You know, some other type of shit. You dig? But in any case, that other type of shit is for another day. Holla.